Welcome back, folks. I'm Jake Ellenbogen. He is Gary Sheffield Jr. This is Yankees Unloaded. And today we're going to be talking to you guys about a Yankees team that just had a potential statement win, a win that they needed to have, obviously. They had some help. The Astros have been giving the Orioles the business, surprisingly. And
Thank
so
God.
the Yankees are still in first place in the AL East, despite the fact that you want to talk about 2 days ago, even a day ago, and Yankees Twitter had them missing the playoffs. So we're back. We're here. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Also, be sure to follow us on all social media at JK Bogan, at Gary Sheffield Jr., and at Yankees Unloaded. Gary, we're going to start off with Marcus Stroman, because I'll tell you right now, coming into this, we had discussed this game. I thought they would win tomorrow because I was really impressed with the way Cortez pitched the last game, and I thought he would bring that same energy. Stroman struggled in his last start, but man, he was fantastic.
Yep.
I know he gave up 3 earned runs. I don't really care about that. He gave him 6 2/3. Could have even probably given him, a full 7. I thought this is the start they needed to have, and people need to understand. 3 runs in 6 2/3 is just as good as really anything, because if you can't score 3 runs over the course of 7 innings and you can't actually support that guy and give him run support, you're not going to win the game normally.
Yeah, you probably don't deserve to win.
Yeah, he gave him every opportunity and then some. And really the only thing is he gave up the long ball. And look, when you go up against Ozuna, who is probably pissed that he's going to be left off the All-Star starting lineup, when he's probably
rightfully so.
Yeah, he's probably having a better year than Ohtani right now, and he's going to be left off. Hey, fan voting.
But, I did tell you that if they have the same year, I would still vote for Ohtani for bias reasons, right?
Yeah.
I just want to see Ohtani. He's just super fun to watch. But I totally agree. Ozuna look at his numbers. They speak for themselves. Look at the back of his baseball card. He deserves to be there. The dude's just a show right now, which, by the way, that homer he hit, I've watched plenty homers hit off Yankees pitching the past 15 years. Okay. That's when I really started to pay attention and hone it in, probably 15 years ago. That was not a pitch to hit out at all. That pitch was kind of bearing down and in, and that's just kind of how he swings. That's his happy zone. And it didn't look like a homer when he made contact. I know we have a short porch in right field that people talk about every day. But analytics say that Yankee Stadium is really not that crazy of an offensive park. It's kind of middle of the road, right? And, depending on the season of when you hit the ball, it was warm today. So I'll give Stroman that. It was hot. Okay. They said it was 80 degrees, but it was a little humid out there. They said the ball was traveling, and, it happens. Great hitters are going to do damage. But as far as bringing this back to Stroman and what he did do, he was around the strike zone. And in my opinion, that had to happen. It absolutely was a must. We wanted to see how Stroman would rebound. 9 stolen bases surrendered the last time he pitched. I know people were trying to figure out, do we blame Trevino? Do we blame Stroman? Is it a combination of both? 0 stolen bases for Atlanta today, if I'm not mistaken. So good to see that. I know Atlanta right now without Acuna is not running, but you still have to give him credit. Even guys in the big leagues who aren't really fleet of foot, if there's a guy who can give up 9 stolen bases and it's on the pitcher, any team's going to try and take advantage of that. Atlanta didn't do that today. So that was really good to see. But overall, it was a start we had to have. Jake, we didn't predict this. We did not think this game had Yankees written all over. It honestly didn't feel like a Yankees win just coming in. It feels like we kind of got our bells rung, and we were just standing around wondering, where's a win coming from, right? Because when you're winning a lot of games, it feels like you can look at the starting pitcher tomorrow and you're like, oh yeah, I like our chances, right? I like our chances. And it just always feels like something positive. Well, all of a sudden we were coming into today's game thinking, okay, Charlie Morton, the scouting report on the Yankees is that they don't like breaking balls. Okay. Guys like Volpe, Soto, Judge, all these guys, Stanton, they all love to see the fastball. Charlie Morton, he's probably the first pitcher you think about breaking balls all day. And that's just what he does. He's a high spin rate guy. And frankly, he kind of reminds me a lot of Yu Darvish. Like, he's a guy, if you struggle with spin, you're not going to like facing this guy. So you can see on TV, he's kind of annoying to face. It's a lot of guesswork offensively. And I thought Yankees hitters did a pretty good job today. We'll dive into Giancarlo's injury and everything, but overall, I thought this offense did a pretty good job today.
Yeah, no, I did too. I loved a lot about today. Obviously, anytime you get a win, I'm not going to sit here and be like, yeah, it was so nice to get a win and yay. There's a lot to take away from this, Gary. I mean, the Stroman masterclass. I like that Boone defended him. I mean, Boone got kicked out of the game for defending him. And look, he was right. I mean, that high strike gets called for Soto way later on. And I felt like that was in retaliation. We always talk about it, and it's kind of funny, right? Like, the manager's going to yell and hoot and holler to get something right down the road. But I mean, we talk about the God complex that these home plate umpires have. I have never assumed that they're going to be like, oh, Boone yelled at me, so yeah, I'm going to obviously change my approach now that he's been thrown out of the game. And, it's like, no. Like, I think you're more likely to not get that call now. And I thought he and Judge got screwed. And if it was a close game, we'd be pissed. The reality is it wasn't a close game because of just how much the Yankees dominated this. I don't think 8-3 tells the whole story. They had an opportunity with the bases loaded, and obviously, the rally starts, and you have in that inning, of course, because it didn't look like they were going to score. And then, you had some bats, put some stuff together. And then, of course, Verdugo comes up with the bases loaded and grounds out. But there was a chance for this to quickly turn into one of those Orioles games that we saw against the Yankees. I mean, make no mistake about it. Their approach was excellent today and was very much like back to the beginning of the season, the thing that we thought we were going to see with the Yankees. And maybe just the reality is that's just not sustainable, because there are certain pitchers that will pound the strike zone. And, you can have that patient approach all you want, but if they're only throwing strikes, you're not going to be able to win that.
That's right.
But Morton wasn't hitting the strike zone. He was trying to get him to, go outside the zone and offer, and they
typical.
weren't doing it. Yeah, it's typical, and they weren't doing it. Soto set the tone, I thought, with 3 walks. Oswaldo had some really good at bats today, which is something he desperately needed. Aaron Judge hit one in the seats. Love that. Thought you saw some really nice patient hitting from Ben Rice, and
that call was bad, by the way. That call was terrible on Aaron Judge. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're not biased here. We're Yankees podcasters, but we're going to make sure that everybody gets the full picture of what happened. If you didn't watch today's game, Aaron Judge got I believe was it a 1-0 fastball? I can't remember exactly the count. This pitch was right over the heart of the plate. Okay. And when you're facing one of the best hitters in the game, if not Jake, we both believe that Aaron Judge is the best hitter on the planet. You cannot miss calls. Derek Thomas was behind the plate today. He missed calls on both sides. Of course, that call on Soto was atrocious, but you cannot miss a call on Aaron Judge like that, because the following pitch, essentially, Charlie Morton was in a position where he either had to snap off a breaking ball and give up on the at-bat and move to the next hitter with multiple guys on base, or he had to go right after him. Well, when you go after the best hitter in the planet, balls end up in the seats, and that's part of the reason why Aaron Judge hit his 28th today. Now, of course, Aaron Judge has to deliver, and you still have to hit the pitches that are thrown to you, but I thought that pitch and that call in that spot really changed the complexity of that entire at-bat. And to be honest with you, if I'm an Atlanta fan, I'm really pissed in that one instance. Now, of course, they got some calls later in the game, but yeah, I wouldn't be too happy.
Yeah, if I was an Atlanta fan, I don't think I ever want to see Aaron Bummer on the mound ever again. Talk about what a bummer watching that guy hit pitch, right? Except if you're a Yankee fan, because he got absolutely destroyed. 3 walks, gave up 2 runs, pitched a third of an inning. I mean,
and overall, Aaron Bummer, he's actually not a bad pitcher in his career. I think his ERA is south of 4 for his career. So, I mean, and I believe he's like somewhere like 28, 29, 30 years old. So he's a guy that they've like maybe not relied on, but he's been an arm, right? He hasn't been horrible. But when he's pitching against the Yankees, it's been easy picking so far.
Yeah, that was easy to watch as a Yankee fan. Probably hard
That
to
was
watch,
fun.
I would assume. It was fun, and the name kind of made it even funnier. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, let's talk about Ben Rice, because I'll say this. Social media nowadays, you do get a chance to maybe, see what someone's thinking. Doesn't always happen. I mean, I thought tonight, I thought Stroman's two seamer, I thought his cutter, and I thought his slider looked really good. And I thought he just was excellent tonight. But one thing I thought was cool is Stroman did actually tweet after the game, and
What'd he
he
say?
said, "Shout to the home crowd. That energy gives me chills every time. Appreciate y'all. Nines clutch as always. Rice with the glove work." Dude's calling out Rice. He's been on the team for 4 days.
I know the play he's talking about. So they hit a ground ball down the line.
Yeah.
And what really stuck out on the screen to me was his athleticism. I'm not used to it. Now, I'm not calling Rizzo a horrible athlete because he's still a good athlete. But I will say this. We've been talking for multiple podcasts. We've brought up this discussion of why Anthony Rizzo would never seemingly take the ball and get to first base on his own. Ben Rice, and you've mentioned the fact that he's caught games. The Yankees have, in the minor leagues at least, have felt comfortable DHing him and also throwing him at first base. Ben Rice is a guy that the Yankees believe can play multiple positions at the big league level. And that's the reason why right now he's playing first base. He's highly athletic. You saw, I think we're going to bring it up, right? We're going to talk about Austin Wells and his ability to score on a line drive into the outfield like that. We've
From
mentioned
first.
from first base. We don't see many Yankees scoring from first base. Outside of Anthony Volpe, how many guys on this team are scoring from first? So to have another dimension to how we can score runs, I think it's really important.
No, I agree with you. And just on, cap off, the rest of his tweet, shout to Booney. Oh, he said full team win. Shout to Booney for having my back. We love that.
Yep.
Process oriented. On to the next one. This is somebody who is controversial, polarizing. Not many people, love him if he's not on your team. And if he's on your team, you do love him. They brought it up on the broadcast. So, I mean, I don't have to spend too much time on it. His first 15 starts or whatever, he had an under 3 ERA last year. And then his last 11, he had over an 8 ERA. Crazy. I don't see that happening again. I just don't. Now, I do think there is a regression that's going to happen just naturally. Okay. It wasn't happening tonight. And that's all you have to, be thankful for at the end of the day. Gary, this is probably the game we would have gone to if we ended up going. I mean, it was Saturday against the Braves. Initially, this was the one. So it would have been a nice game to go to. Also seeing a Judge bomb. But
this would have been a great day to be at. I'm honestly sad.
Oh, yeah.
Can I bring up one thing really quick about Stroman that
Yeah.
I think is just wildly important because no one's talking about it? Do you remember at the beginning of the year, and I said, do you realize why Marcus Stroman's 33? There are plenty of guys in the big leagues who are receiving contracts on the mound well in like years into their 40s, right? We're in a weird time in baseball where we're giving out contracts to players who are 40 years old. Charlie Morton, who started today's game for Atlanta, is 40. Okay. The reason Marcus Stroman wasn't receiving these big time contracts, the 6, 7, 8-year deals when he was a free agent this past winter, do you know why that is, Jake?
The last 11 games.
Innings pitched. Exactly.
Well, that too. Yeah.
Exactly what you're saying. If you look at his innings, Marcus Stroman somehow, some way always ends up to the 135 to 140 in terms of innings pitched per year. And that seems to be like this invisible ceiling for him. Well, right now I'm looking at the screen. We're at 91 in the third inning. So we're actually starting to creep closer to that number. Marcus Stroman's actually pitching deep into these games. He's attacking guys, but more importantly, he's being efficient. I've seen him throughout his career. He's always picked spots. He's tried to pick around hitters. If a guy's a bad opportunity to pitch in the strike zone, he'll just face the next guy. He'll pitch around that guy. With the Yankees, it seems like he's around the zone more often. And so I'm just paying attention to it right now. I'm not just going to say he's going to blow past 140, But as of now, we have no reason to believe he's not going to. So I think this looks really good.
Yeah, there was a certain at bat I want to bring up. Was it Laureano? He gets down like 2-0 or 3-0 and came back and actually ended up striking him out. It might have been Arcia, actually. Yeah, it was kind of crazy, honestly, because he was missing the zone, and you're like, okay, he'll probably walk this guy. And normally Stroman would, but I was really impressed with the nature of him. Just he went after hitters today. I don't think he was just trying to generate soft contact and get some ground balls. I think this guy went out for blood, and we saw it. Especially that Riley at bat. He was going after heavy hitters, and it worked. And you like that because I think there's sometimes where it's almost like a lack of belief in himself, where he'll be like, I'm already down in this count. I'm going to keep this low and away. And most pitchers will do that if they're not, feeling a lot of confidence. He was confident today. He would start off low and away, and then be like, I'm going to pound this strike zone. And then there was one pitch in particular. It was that cutter that, it was like way off the plate. And I think it was Arcia who just absolutely swung and missed. Laureano doesn't want to see Stroman ever again at this point. He was brutal.
It's also easier said than done to attack the zone because everyone sitting at home probably thinks to themselves, and now there's, of course, much smarter fans than others. There are some dinglings out there who know nothing about ball, but they're just sit at home and be like, bro, throw strikes. It's not hard. Just throw strikes. If you throw strikes, good things are going to happen. Well, guess what, guys? At the same time, there's a reason a lot of pitchers will throw away from the strike zone because you can't give up hard contact outside the strike zone. Okay. So if you have good stuff and you don't throw the ball inside the strike zone, Blake Snell's kind of shown us, yeah, if you have discipline, you're going to be able to get to me. But if you don't, I'm not going to give up homers because I'm not throwing a ton of strikes. But pitchers like Marcus Stroman, you have a battle. You essentially have to fight. Do I throw inside the strike zone and I allow my defense to work and also bring in the consequence? There's a possibility you give up hard contact. He pitched to contact today and he got bit, right, with a homer the other way. Now, a hot day at Yankee Stadium, being aggressive in that situation objectively hurt him. But overall, that approach to pitching inside the strike zone helped him get deep into today's game. I love that we didn't have to burn multiple pitchers out the bullpen. Like, we didn't use 4 guys. That was huge. That's exactly what we were talking about that this Yankees team needs, because right now, objectively speaking, I'll speak for myself. Jake, you might have a different opinion on it. This team needs bullpen arms. We need it. That's my opinion. I think this team, you mentioned that, and we've texted back and forth, that there's some guys that you can see out there. I think they need some high prized arms, some real arms out there, big time arms. Okay. I'm talking about Miller. I'm talking about multiple guys, talking about sending big time prospects for these guys. Now, this team needs rest. That's the number one thing we need right now in the short term, because the deadline's not for a month. Okay. When you're talking about trades, the Yankees aren't making it for a month because they need to see. Brian Cashman needs to see, how is everything going to transpire? Is Oakland going to go down another 10 games in the division the next month, let go of the rope, and then sell off assets? Or is another team who thinks they're a contender going to go on a slide and then suddenly they become sellers? So you never know with the market. So this start from Marcus Stroman overall, coming into today's game, we needed length. Basic. It's exactly what we needed. He came in and gave us length. I said last show, a veteran pitcher is going to have to show up and show out. It was Stroman.
This comes right after we were talking about last night, Yoendris Gomez going almost 5 innings. And we talked about last night, I'll say it again, to only use, they used Tonkin, which was kind of weird. They brought him in for, an out.
And he's been one of our better guys.
Yeah, I don't like the way they use Tonkin. I wish they just because we talked about this with Marinaccio, using him in the 8th and 7th inning, and he gets used to that. Then you're using him in the 2nd. It's like, what are we doing here? Bickford looked good again, and Luke Weaver. I mean, I don't care that he gave up the hit. Give me the 2 strikeouts. Dude looks ferocious on the
Yeah,
mound.
you can usually tell with Luke Weaver in terms of how he is around the zone. Guys are going to get hits. If you give up a hit, that doesn't mean anything necessarily bad happened. I mean, that
No.
just happens. This is big league hitters. They're going to get hits.
Yeah.
But when you watch the games, if a guy's slider looks flat or his fastball is poorly located, like you can tell when you watch like Carlos Rodon, for example, if he gives up a homer and like multiple homers, just watch where are these pitches located. If it's like down and away on the corner and a dude goes the other way, tip your cap, right? Maybe it was poor sequencing. Maybe it was tipping. There's all types of reasons that guys get hits in the big leagues, and they're really smart. Some hitters are much smarter than others, but overall, you can't get mad if you make a pitcher's pitch and a dude does damage. That just happens. But Weaver in general, he was making his pitches, and it was just plainly obvious he was going to be successful today.
No, I absolutely agree. I thought Weaver looked really good. Tonkin, that limited opportunity, looked good, and Bickford looked good. This all stems from yesterday. I mean, if you have to pitch, Weaver and go, long on Bickford, this isn't really possible. But because of yesterday with Gomez, this is what we talk about. Having a guy like Gomez, it kind of changes the game for the Yankees. They don't really have anybody that they trust to go almost 5 innings out of the bullpen.
Do we love the Dodgers, by the way? Did you notice? So we get Bickford, right? Bickford is
From
a
the
former
Dodgers.
Dodger. We get Caleb Ferguson from the Dodgers. It's weird.
Gonzalez was from the Dodgers, and then they sent
Gonzalez. Yeah.
Gave him his walking papers.
So it seems like Cashman and Matt Blake have something up their sleeve when I think they're at the very least scouting LA.
Oh yeah, I mean, of course they are. They're scouting everybody, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Back to your point with the bullpen, I wouldn't be surprised that they went out because they signed Chase and Shreve today to a minor league deal, and people are. It was falsely reported as if he's going to right up to the major leagues. I texted you like, what the hell, like what? Well, what are we doing here? I don't remember Shreve being good personally. I was never really a fan. And I'm sure there are other. We won't go down the rabbit hole of not minor leaguers, but bullpen arms that you and I have just been like, oh, why are they putting him in? Tyler Clippard.
Technically, you don't need our opinion on every move that the Yankees make. Sometimes the Yankees are going to make moves that's just part of the process, right? It might have no effect. So I think that's one of the things that, maybe he'll get called up for a weekend. He'll pitch for an inning and a third, and then they'll send his butt cheeks back to AAA and then cut him, right? That can happen, right? Not every move you make is a move that you're like intending on that player being on like the 40 man, right? In October. That doesn't necessarily mean that. I think that's just one of the moves that they trust him. They've had him in their system. They like him as a dude, and they think he's going to be professional, and maybe he can help some guys in the bullpen down there. So who knows?
We did get an update on John Birdie. His calf is improving and could begin a minor league rehab assignment in a few weeks. That's as of today.
Okay, because he wasn't pitching well at all. He was he's more of a project, more of a stuff guy.
No, that's Nick Birdie. John Birdie, the third baseman. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Nick Birdie.
He's on the 60, isn't he?
He's getting like plasma injections in his hip. GG's.
That dude is.
Oh man.
In our prayers, my friend.
Yeah. Not good. Everson
Birdie
Pereira,
at third
by the
base
way,
would be great.
Yeah. No, he would. Everson Pereira, by the way, because I know a lot of people just look at him as a trade chip.
Mm-hmm.
He's undergoing a season-ending internal brace surgery on his right elbow in the coming days. If you're doing the math there, speaking, end of the season, he's not going to really be able to contribute anywhere. His value just went down. So that's potentially significant. But yeah, that's what's going on. that we know of. I mean, Efros and Brubaker are going to have their rehab assignments. Efros was a high priced guy that they went out and got. He was a really good relief pitcher when they got him, and then he just didn't do anything. So we'll see what ends up happening. It's been like 3 years since he pitched, but the thing that I'm actually really intrigued with, Gary, is actually Brubaker, because I mentioned before the plan is to build him up as a starter. And I think so often we look at that like, oh, they just want him to be the guy in AAA, or oh, they want him to be an option in the rotation in case anybody goes down. I don't look at it like that. I look at it like, why can't you have two of what Gomez just did? If you have two guys that can do that in your pen, now
Yeah.
we're talking. And I got to be honest with you. I think bullpen, in a sense, doesn't make really any sense, because why do you have a bunch of guys that can only go an inning and feels like, pulling teeth to go 2 innings, when if you just had guys that were capable of coming in and pitching 4 or 5, you're getting more coverage. You know what I
I
mean?
think throwing him in the bullpen is almost like a bit of protection on their value.
Yeah.
Because if you really think about it, I actually like what the Yankees are doing, because in years past, here's what they would do. They would tell me they have this big time prospect that they really believe in. They'd show me really good numbers in AA or AAA. They would call them up to the big leagues, say that their rotation was set, because overall, Yankees pitching's been pretty solid over the years. They'll essentially throw him in the bullpen as this like super reliever. He'll throw 40 innings that year. And then the following year, they'll continuously tell us that they want to build him up as a starter, and then they wouldn't. Okay. The Yankees have got to put faith in their young players and actually give them an opportunity to pitch games and stay in games. They're going to get in trouble. You need to let them work out of trouble. Earlier this year, we saw Luis Gil. He was clearly a stuff guy. He got in trouble in those series early on in Arizona. He was wild. He didn't know where his fastball was going. Frankly, he looked like a reliever. Okay. That's what he looked like. But the Yankees just stayed with the course, let him go out there and be a starter. They believed in him to be a starter. They weren't putting him out there to wait on Garrett Cole to like grab the baton and then throw Luis Gil back in the pen. No, they were positioning him for a starting rotation role. So I actually love that the Yankees are actually putting their money where their mouth is, and they're actually putting guys on the mound and not lying to us about their prospects. It seems like they actually believe in these guys that they're telling us they believe in. So this looks good.
Yeah. I mean, we'll all sign up for that, right? I mean, just, oh, yeah, we have these guys. Yeah. I mean,
Do you?
we always talk about it, right? It's like, yeah, they need an arm. I mean, I have an arm. Like, what, you want me pitching? I mean,
It reminds me of the Quintana thing where they're like, well, he can throw. But if you want to trade, there's teams out there in the big leagues, Jake, that
don't
are
get me
thinking to
started.
themselves right now, we need a starting pitcher, a starter. And you can't tell me that guys who are in your farm system, you project them and you believe that they can be starters, and then you want to sell another team. Yeah, you should trade us one of your really good players who's about to be a free agent. You can give us that star player, that veteran that we can use to win a World Series. This dude in the minor leagues, he can start for you. And then the Yankees say, the other team will be like, hey, what track record says that this guy can start games? And then the Yankees turn around and say, there is none. There is no track record. There's no track record of this guy starting it like games and throwing 5-6 innings consecutively. None of it. So the Yankees, what they're doing right now is they're building multiple different avenues, right, of guys who can be starters for their organization. When you get to the trade deadline, everyone needs a starter. There's like 4 or 5 guys that you can flip to these organizations and like actually have viable options. So right now, our system, just system alone, we look good.
Yeah, I'm looking at the AAA team right now. Will Warren, 6.65 ERA. It just doesn't, this year hasn't looked great, obviously. Edgar Barclay, 7.48 ERA. Those have been like the top 2 guys in the rotation, really getting shelled. Gomez wasn't getting any run support, but had a 3.13 ERA, striking out 54 in 46, and a opponent batting average of 179. Opponents are hitting Barclay at 288 and Will Warren at 269. So 179 against Yoendris Gomez. And then you have Odinir Mosqueda, who's 4-0 with a 5.09 ERA. But
What are these names?
opponents are hitting him at 206. And he's pitched 35 and a third innings. That's 53 strikeouts. So,
oh, that'll play.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know the ERA isn't great, but let's be honest here. Who really cares? They called up Clayton Andrews and they totally botched that. He had a 5.84 ERA in AAA, and they've called him up twice this year. I will say this, your guy and my guy as well. I've been a very big fan of his. Clayton Beeter, 2.53 ERA, 1.19 WHIP, opponent batting average of 153. He's got 44 strikeouts in 32 innings.
Wait, you said his whip is 1.9?
1.19.
Okay, I was gonna say my heart actually dropped. Okay, good. I was gonna say, I was like, a 1.9 is not gonna work. Yeah, but a 1.19 would be great. Yeah, as long as he's around the zone.
I think right now the Yankees are wrestling with the idea Clayton Beeter could help them immediately. No doubt about it. He could probably start if need be. The problem is if he's not 100% going to start in the rotation and you're, again, trying to build him up as a starter, are you going to take him out of AAA and, take away the starting reps that, maybe you feel like he needs? Because to me, I look at him and Gomez as kind of, Gomez has 12 starts this year. Beeter has 7. Gomez has been in the farm quite a while now. So, I think it's time. I don't know. I think, he's 24 years old. I think it's time. And Beeter, if I'm not mistaken, I think Beeter's also 24. No, he's 25. So, yeah, I think they really kind of have to figure that out. It's not a simple thing to do. It's not something we'll just do this. Like, you have to have a game plan because these guys have options. And as we saw with Clayton Andrews, if you run out of options, you have to DFA the guy if you're sending him down. And that's not always a guarantee. Clayton Andrews is probably coming back to AAA. I don't think anybody's going to claim him.
But then if they call up Beeter too, like if they call up Beeter, okay, Cody Poteet right now is on the 15-day IL. This is to your point.
Yeah.
He's on the 15-day IL. That's essentially 2 starts. If you call up Clayton Beeter at your system, he throws 2 starts, right? Let's just say he pitches well in both of those starts and you send him down. Well, there goes one of your options, right? Yeah. So you can't just work that way where you just always continuously call up guys just because they're ready. Like that's part of the reason why some organizations will leave their best options down in the minor leagues because frankly, you can run out of options. It actually can happen. So to your point, Clark Schmidt in 2 months, we're going to be saying, okay, we're expecting the way he was throwing. He's just going to be a part of the rotation again. Well, that kicks somebody out the rotation. It was before we were saying it was either going to be Stroman or Nestor Cortez, right? But wouldn't you argue that also if Cody Poteet maybe has somewhat of a regression, you kick him out? Well, there goes another option. You're sending him down. So there's so many moving parts in a Major League Baseball team, and it all gets so complex. It's not just baseball. There's business involved. So, yeah, we're going to get to those, we'll cross that bridge when it comes. Yeah. But, it's definitely a tough conversation.
Well, the good thing for Beeter, and something I think translates well when you get to the next level, is that he's keeping the ball in the ballpark. Big reason why Will Warren Barclay have such horrible ERAs is because they've given up a combined 33 home runs between the two of them, right? That's insane.
Good Lord.
Gomez has given up 4 in 46 innings, which we'll take. That's not bad. Mosqueda is given up 4 as well. Clayton Beeter's given up 1 in 32 innings. There you go.
What?
He's given up 1 home run. 32 innings.
Yeah, we love that because if you really think about what the Yankees have in their current rotation right now, there's guys like, I mean, when Garrett Cole gets hit, he gives up homers. He doesn't necessarily get hit around the park. He gives up the long ball, right? But of course, he's got incredible stuff, so he can, God bless you, so he can kind of get around it.
I love it.
But if you really think about it, when Carlos Rodon gets hit, it's just a home run derby out there. It is a derby. He's giving up bombs. So, it gets frustrating.
Yeah. Poteet he gave up 4 in 33 innings to kind of give you an example. Bickford gave up 2 in 27 and 2/3. Bickford did not obviously start. He's been in 22 games. I definitely see why they called him up. The problem is Bickford's a veteran. So when he was called up, they had to purchase the contract. It's really stupid. And so what ends up happening is because the word usage you're using of purchasing a contract or purchasing the MLB contract or whatever, now you have people oh, they just signed this guy as a free agent. No, he was actually in AAA and he was, 2-2 with a 2.93 ERA, 35 strikeouts and 27 and 2/3, 1.27 whip, and opponent batting average of 2.32. So he was actually pitching decently well. But again, problem is when you have that label and it's not everybody is a diehard baseball fan. So when they're trying to follow and you have shit they purchased the rights to, it's can't you just say they called him up? No, he's a veteran. We can't use that. Whatever.
Wait, Phil Bickford is a veteran?
Yeah.
Those are fighting words. Your podcast host is also a veteran. I'm 30. This dude's 2 years younger than me. The fact that we're calling dudes veterans who are younger than the hosts that are doing this show is just not right.
Yeah. I mean, hey, I didn't make it up. Oh my God. Tanner Tully. Remember him?
No.
I think they traded for him. I don't know.
No, I don't know who that is.
He's 29 and he's got a 7.04 ERA in 13 appearances. He started 10 games. Opponent batting average of 286.
Hey, by the way, little side note. I was looking at stats.
Yeah.
From Carlos Rodon. Did you know that the most homers he's ever given up in his entire career in a season is 23? Okay. Every single season since then until today, that was in 2016, I just mentioned. The most he'd given up since then is 15. You know, he's already given up 14 this year.
That's his biggest issue, man. His biggest issue, because when he misses, his location is always high. Not on purpose, but when he misses, it's high. And high heat, man, the way these guys can hit, I mean, it makes sense. And so, yeah, it's tough with him because that's really the only thing that's really holding him back. When he gets shelled, it's the home runs. Everything else is fine, But I mean, the same could be said oh, yeah, Will Warren is leading the entire team in strikeouts, right? He's got 72 in 66 innings. But dude's giving up 16 home runs. I mean,
it's a lot.
Have it. Yeah, it's a ton. So obviously he's going to have to figure that out. I got to be honest with you. I don't love the Scranton Wilkes-Barre pitching staff that they're dealing with. I don't love what they have for options. But I will say there are things you can take away. There are good things to take away. Most of the guys have more strikeouts than they do innings pitched. So that's kind of cool. Clayton Beater, Odin Nair, I just used a different name, I guess, Mosqueda, but I don't even know how to pronounce his name. And then Gomez, like we talked about. Gomez is going to be a favorite on this show. I can already tell. Because, I mean, we were talking about him earlier, in the season. Let's pivot here to Giancarlo Stanton, because we have no idea what to make of this. It sucks. It's also, and I understand. I mean, look, let me just preface it by saying Giancarlo doesn't want to be hurt. So let's cut out the negativity on the timeline. It's kind of ridiculous. People are like, oh, this bum got hurt rounding third. Look, I'm not happy about it either, but these guys are athletes. And, actually the funny part about it is people don't get it because they're like, they sit there and they'll be like, oh, well, these guys are under all this intense training and all this conditioning, and how do they get hurt? It's like, yeah, I mean, the same could be said. How do these guys that are world class athletes tear their ACL and Achilles and have injuries I will never have? Knock on wood, hopefully. Hello, it's the strenuous preparation. Okay,
They're using it.
like they're actually using it. You and I, if we go to the gym, I mean, like when I go to the gym, I'm going for walks. I don't have a professional baseball team that's checking in on my weight every day and checking in on what I'm eating and making sure that I arrive at the ballpark at 6 a.m. for freaking batting practice. No, I don't have to worry about that. I'm just living my life just like
You know what
are.
I think it is, Jake? Here's what I think it is. I think the reason people get so frustrated with Giancarlo getting hurt, of course, like it's how much money he's making, and it is frustrating to see anyone get hurt, but no one's more frustrated than Giancarlo. But here's why I think people get mad. I think people get mad because they can play for their local slow pitch softball league and they can do their fucking valet jog around first and second and get to third base. And they think, well, it's not that hard. I do it, right? While some car mechanic is in right field getting the ball into the relay, right? So if you really think about it, people have this overinflated self in believing that it's easy to go second to home and hit a ball in the gap and go first to second, right? And playing, Giancarlo doesn't play 162. He probably plays 125, 130 games a year if he's lucky, right? It's still a lot of baseball. I played in college. We played 60 games a year. Every single player on the field, we were in our 20s, right? Some of the players were 19. We all looked around and said, geez, this is a lot of games. This feels like a lot of baseball. And the reason that watching Major League Baseball doesn't feel like a lot of ball is because we get to sit at home and eat hot Cheetos and drink Dr. Pepper and watch this shit. It's easy for us. We just watch. So when you stand around and you actually ask yourself, how's it possible that Giancarlo is really hurt today? Because we're sitting here at June 22nd, and we're sitting here wondering, how's this guy hurt again? Jake, didn't we just say 3 weeks ago that we should call up Jason Dominguez because a lot of us were anticipating this moment? Not necessarily that Stanton is hurt and he's going on the IL, but is this something that you really didn't expect to happen? Let's get honest here.
Well, I want to know why is Stanton under fire when Judge was hurt? Soto was hurt. I mean, other guys have gotten hurt, and it's like, oh, that's annoying.
Schmidt's hurt.
And Stan gets hurt.
Yeah.
And it's like the whole thing is like, it's like more hostile with Stan, I noticed. It's like, are you kidding me? That bum. We shouldn't have paid him. It's the worst deal. Well, hold on a second. Guy's 18 home runs. He's batting over 240, which, I mean, we were on this show basically saying, I'll take 210 Stanton if he hits home runs. Well, we have 240 Stanton. And I'm sorry, but no one is more upset about this hammy issue than freaking Stanton. Look at him going home. He's about to score a run, and he's like are you kidding me? Like, really? He's lost weight. He's done the necessary steps. My question here is, they'll give Anthony Volpe a day off after having a day off. They'll give Verdugo a day off in a series against the Braves. They'll give Judge a day off, whatever. It feels like they have taken Stanton for granted, and they've gone away from what they've been doing that hasn't really even kept him healthy. But now, even more so, they've gone away from it. And he stayed healthy for the most part this year, but I don't get it, Gary. I mean, I said it, long ago when it came to Jason Dominguez, when it came to maybe bringing up Pereira, when it came up to bring up any of those guys. And I said, I'm like, right now the Yankees don't have much of a bench where you even want to give Stanton a day off. But you can correct that because you have guys in the farm that could, alleviate that pressure. Stanton needs days off. This is a reminder. I know they will pinch run for him in the 8th inning and 9th and whatever. That's not enough. Like, he needs more time off. You have to understand, this is the bed, that was made. You're laying in it. And you can't just sit here and be like, he's getting paid $27 million a year. He shouldn't have to need days off. Well, I hate to break it to you, but that's just not reality. The reality is, this is a guy that is injury prone. Okay. So much so they've told him he can't run anymore around the base pass.
Yeah, these are soft tissue injuries. This is the reason why last year we were all laughing at him, who essentially he was walking really to home plate, and he was thrown out
not
by 40
just last
steps.
year. We this year when he was rounding third and they already had the ball at home.
And he's just like stopped.
Well,
no, but it's
the third base coach, man. I don't know his name, but man, he'll send Stanton, and it's like, is this amateur hour? What are we doing?
It's like he's trying to expose him, but this is the thing, and this is the whole point about our rant here.
Yeah,
is that nobody's more upset. Not any Yankees fan is more upset about this transpiring than Giancarlo Stanton is himself. Because Giancarlo, if this exact season, exactly the year he's having right now, if he continued hitting 240 at the end of this year, and he had the same home run projection the whole season, he would hit about 40 homers and hit 240. Don't you know how he would feel about himself in New York in 2024 if he was able to output that for us? That's the reason why he never asked for a trade. He can ask for a trade. The Yankees would trade him if he asked for a trade, right?
Yeah.
He didn't do that. He wants to be here. So nobody wanted it more than him to deliver a quality season for the Yankees. And by the way, I know you mentioned that there's some guys in AAA who there's some options to kind of keep him fresh, maybe get him on a schedule where he can have multiple days off and like really protect him. But to be honest with you, Jake, I'm past that point with Giancarlo. In my opinion, Giancarlo Stanton is a 100 game per year player. That's all that's left in his body. He physically has it, okay? If he's on the field, he's an asset for the Yankees when he's got it going. He's a streaky player, but the days of him playing 145 games or 125 games are done, okay? All it is Giancarlo is going to give us a strong, hopefully, first half of the year. He's going to get hurt at some point along the way. And then hopefully he's healthy by September so that he can get his feet up under him heading into October to help us win a World Series. That's the way I view Giancarlo. I don't see him as a player that we can like even put in a certain position to be there all season. I don't think that situation exists at all. So I'm not even like upset about how this affects the Yankees. I'm more sad for Giancarlo because he was actually starting to change the narrative about how we view him when frankly I feel a lot of it's unfair.
No, I agree with you, and I mean his story isn't written. So he could come out of this and just like, yeah, it was precautionary, which it did kind of sound precautionary, but then over the course of time they're like, oh yeah, he's going to have to get this checked out, and you're like, okay, that doesn't sound great, but trying to cover all the bases and everything, I get it. Moving on as we kind of wrap this thing up here, you wanted to touch on John Smoltz.
For the love of God. Okay, so what was so crazy, you brought this up before the show started, and I've met John Smoltz, and he's an incredibly cerebral baseball player. He's a smart athlete in general, really good golfer, just a smart guy. And if I sat in front of him and had a conversation about what he was watching today while he was delivering the broadcast, he would have told you, yeah, the home plate umpire, I believe his name was Derek Thomas, he was not doing a good job. But the fact that Aaron Boone was complaining about the strike zone, and Aaron Boone, by the way, I know some people think, well, what's Aaron Boone complaining about? Like, for what reason would you be getting ejected from a game that the Yankees seemingly have controlled? Well, part of it, and you mentioned this, is that he needs to set the tone because we're going to see this umpire down the road. You cannot allow people to control the strike zone and control the narrative throughout a game. And John Smoltz was literally covering Aaron Boone complaining about the strike zone as if he hadn't watched any of the game. He was saying, yeah, I just don't know what we're upset about. You don't know what we're upset about? Go watch the pitch to Juan Soto. How can you possibly tell me that you don't understand what people are upset about? Look at the strike zone. Look at it. Okay. So he was looking at that, and you mentioned that, yeah, he's seemingly biased against the Yankees. I don't understand how you can have any other takeaway. I really don't. The dude's just watching the game, and it's like, I think part of Smoltz being in the booth, he knows a lot of the people who really like John Smoltz are Braves fans. Okay. Yes. Like if you're a baseball fan, you still got love for him, but it's not the same unless you're a Braves fan. I think he knows a lot of the people who are happy he's in the booth are Braves guys. So it's almost like he's like, let me cover this game, but I'm also going to cover it as if I'm like a Braves home broadcast guy because that's my audience. And he's almost leaning into that. And I think, to be honest with you, it just made for a bad experience. I think he has the capability of doing a good job, but I thought today was just a miss.
No, yeah, absolutely. I think pretty much every time John Smoltz covers the Yankee game, it's a mess because I don't think he can let go of 1996. And I'm not the only one that says that. There are, verified accounts on Twitter, former players that have called him out on that. So it's not just me. But like for instance, this tweet is so spot on. At Mike Carbone Jr. According to John Smoltz, it's a great piece of hitting when an Atlanta Brave uses the short porch. It's a cheap layup, though, when the Yankees do it. And that's how it feels. John Smoltz on Aaron Judge's 2024 home run pace. And I quote, the Yankees are going to be pennant chase the entire year, the division chase the entire year. I don't know he will get the chances he got when in the MVP year. It really wasn't the same. The AL East standings in 2022, the Yankees won 99 games. They were 99-63. They won the AL East by 7 games. I don't even know what he was saying. And I just didn't compute to me at all. And there's so many memes. Just look up John Smoltz on Twitter when you get a chance. So many memes just ripping on the Yankees, and people are just, tired of it. He's got a PhD in hating on the Yankees. I mean, just all sorts of tweets and stuff. I'll tell you right now, okay? Always been a good broadcaster. When I watch games that aren't the Yankees, that's when he thrives. But, it's better than like Eduardo Perez, who I just don't really think is that great, regardless if it's the Yankees or not. But I don't know. I just don't like him. I'm sure he's a nice guy, but
at least he's better than what's her name in Oakland. She's like, that ball's got a chance. Oh shit! It went 490 feet into the pond out there. It's like she's not watching the game. I don't know. I'm not even gonna say her name because I'm just gonna get in trouble. Because that's kind of how the shit works for me. Is like if I say stuff, then that person, you know what happens? That person will send a message to like my dad. And then my dad will send a message to me. I'm telling you, I'm being serious when I say this stuff. So I always have to be careful with it. Eventually, when the show gets big enough, I'm just going to say screw it and just say whatever I want. But I will say, she's just not doing a good job, whoever her name is.
Well, yeah. You had to bring that up. I'll never forget. It hasn't been Siri's night, and then Siri hits a freaking walk-off home run. I'm like, are you freaking, what the hell, man? Are you kidding me? Oh, no, Siri, this isn't your night. And then the next pitch, boom.
It's honestly just perfect.
We live in a simulation. That's all I can say. How the hell is that even happening? Like, are we serious? But yeah, can we also just go back to the fact, like, look, yes, network broadcast is undefeated. I will say this. I have to say this because I have to give him credit. Joe Davis has the best voice for play-by-play.
Who's Joe Davis?
What does that sound?
I don't hear anything.
I swear I just
Are you hearing the ghost of Joe Davis?
Yeah, well You don't hear that?
Yeah,
Someone's
I
speaking
hear talking.
Japanese.
See, you started talking about broadcast. See, that's John Smoltz who actually hired hackers. He's taken over our podcast. Yeah,
Where
but
is that
anyways,
coming from? I don't even understand. I have no idea where that's coming from. None.
yeah, I don't know. But there are plenty bad broadcasts. You know, one thing, I'll give Michael Kay a ton of credit because Michael Kay is someone who's like wildly criticized in large part just because his audience is bigger than everybody else's. He's covering the Yankees. He knew what he was getting into. But Michael Kay is surprisingly objective. He actually's got, in the same way I do, a temper. Michael Kay will he'll kind of throw a jab at you. You know what I mean? Like because I'll tell you this, I've said some things in regards to things that Michael Kay has responded to or how he's covered different things. And Michael Kay will take exception to some of them, right? And others he'll agree to, and we'll have conversation about it. But when he disagrees, he'll kind of throw a jab back at you. I like that. I actually really like that. A lot of these other broadcasters will kind of just act like they're goody two shoes and they don't see the negative and whatever. No, Michael Kay is actually in a position that's wildly criticized, and he still has his own flavor and personality that you may or may not like, right? It may not be for you, but he's like, to hell with it. I'm going to put my stamp on the game, and hopefully you love it. So that's something I can always respect. I'll always enjoy that. So yeah, I think we're very lucky with the Yankees broadcast because it could have been much worse. Could you imagine watching like last year's Yankees with a bad broadcast crew?
Oh, yeah, I know. I love Michael Kay. I think he's one of the absolute best.
Same.
I agree with you. And I think Michael Kay has kind of turned himself into like a Joe Buck. That I know he gets a lot of flack. I think Buck is great. I really believe that. And I think the reason, first off, if you listen to the Michael Kay show, the guy knows his sports. It's not just baseball. You'd be surprised. Like he'll talk about football. He knows it. It's kind of weird, especially when he starts talking about my Rams. I'm like, this sounds weird. Like, come on, you're the Yankee guy. What's going on here? But no, I'm not calling him Mike Tirico. I'm not saying he can cover a Masters or anything like that. But I feel what I mean by the comparison to Joe Buck is that Joe Buck took it upon himself to be more than just a play-by-play guy. And honestly, Joe Davis is doing the same thing. Like he's adding more to his repertoire where he can also give some color as well. Michael Kay does that like a lot more than people realize. Now, he'll have Paul O'Neill, he'll have David Cohn, he'll have Joe Girardi, and those guys, I love all three of them. But Michael Kay is still capable of giving that color and giving that analysis and being up with the times. And I feel like he doesn't get enough credit for that. But I want to throw this last thing out there because, dude, people are clapping back at John Smoltz on Twitter. It's funny. It's all over my feed right now. The exit velo for Trent Grisham's home run was 96.5, right?
Okay.
That would have been a home run in 27 out of the 30 ballparks. And people are just copying and pasting it all over their feed. Can someone at MLB on Fox send this to John Smoltz, please? Because John Smoltz, the problem, the mistake he made was if you're going to be biased, if you're going to have something, make it a little playful almost. Like if that's like your shtick, whatever. He just kind of like it comes off as bitter. And you're going to sit there and act like Yankee Stadium is the only reason these are home runs when the analytics there prove that the home run that Trent Grisham hit is a home run in every ballpark except for 3. Kind of blows up your argument, no?
I guess you can kind of call that an old school mentality. The Yankee Stadium is like this cheapy offensive stadium, but
so
I wouldn't
annoying.
even call it old school. I would just call it stupid. It's not accurate. Look at the numbers. If you really think that hitting at Yankee Stadium and just flipping the ball out to right field is like a genuine approach that hitters can have with any type of consistency. I mean, do you remember how the Yankees always signed right-handed hitters just over and over and over again, just beat the dead horse? How often did that work? Not very. Okay? Didn't work. Because they had this impression that, yeah, our hitters, if they pull the ball, that's their strong side. But if they go the other way, have a more defensive swing, they still have an opportunity to go the other way and hit a homer. Okay. That was the literal approach. Stupid. Just
It's
totally
so
dumb.
stupid.
So dumb. So if John Smoltz really wants to be objective about this job, and I would assume that he should want to, he should do just a shred of research as to what Yankee Stadium's actually about. Because if he just wants, I'm cool with like total bozo losers on Twitter trolling about Yankee Stadium. I could ignore that, but I don't have to listen to them on my broadcast. Okay. Like I'm not going to hear them. But when John Smoltz on the show, I'm forced to listen to that. So
Yeah.
just do your research before you hop on there, right? Like that's just, I think, part of the prerequisite to being a broadcaster.
I agree. I don't know why we can't have every game on Yes Network though, because I know there are a few teams that have every game on their station, and you could watch, like, if it's on TBS, watch the alternate broadcast on TBS or ESPN, whatever. But like, man, I don't know. I don't like it. I just want to watch Yes Network. I mean, some people look at it, oh, you just want to watch the biasing. And no, I just want to watch the better announcing. I mean, like I said, Joe Davis is great, but like the color that you're getting from David Cohn, I don't have to tell you because he's on ESPN too, doing the Sunday night games. Okay. He's awesome. Right. Guys like that, they're breaking down arm angles, they're breaking down tunneling. They're actually using their experience instead of just being like, well, I played in baseball, so I know everything and all that.
We have so much of that. And there
it's
are
all
a
over
ton.
Football too, by the way.
Yeah, someone will just show up and be like, well, he was a really good left tackle, so just throw him in the booth. He'll be great. And the dude hops in there and they kick it to him and he's like, you just got to dominate. You got to go out there and dominate. I'm like, he didn't add anything. He didn't tell me anything. You just tell me, like, they'll bring Shaq out there outside of like the entertainment aspect. Yeah. You're not going to go turn on TNT and like listen to Shaq tell you the X's and O's of what needs to happen. Like swing pass to the corner. They're going to set a screen or whatever. I'm like, Shaq doesn't know any of this shit.
At least it's Shaq though. So it's like an icon. He's a teddy bear to a lot of people. People love him. Okay.
And super entertaining.
But you'll get like a random ass like linebacker or like, I don't know, a cornerback that was on like a Super Bowl team and was like, a special teamer, but they didn't even get a chance to be on special teams, was like a reserve. And he'll be like, yeah, this is how we won the Super Bowl. Like, what, like, you have to know what it takes. It's like, oh my God, man. Like, you just sound so ridiculous right now. And look, I'm not poo-pooing on anyone who wants to get into broadcast media or anything like that. But to your point, there are a lot of guys that will use that. And I mean, I have a co-host in Cameron Lynch, who played for the Rams, played for the Buccaneers, linebacker. And, he knows his stuff and will actually keep up with it. But like you said, there are a lot of guys like you go on TV and especially week one when they're giving all these guys kind of like a test run, because you have your A team broadcast, your B team broadcast on Fox and CBS each, and then you have your test run guys, and it's like, Mark Sanchez, I thought did a decent job. Then there's another guy that's like a backup quarterback, and they're like, yeah, like, you won the Heisman years ago, and then it's like, yeah, you just he's a gamer, real gamer, steps up and he just games. Like, it's like,
well, dog, Greg Olson. Greg Olson was one of those guys. Greg Olson's gotten a lot better. But
Greg Olson's awesome. I love Greg Olson.
See, I think he's gotten a lot better now. His first year, he was so nervous on the broadcast, and I mean, I guess it makes sense to be nervous. They literally would kick it to him, and he was just so overwhelmed, which I get. It's a hard job. You're being watched. But yeah, like, I mean, the whole point is that you want some level of objectivity if I'm forced to watch you. If you're like this middle ground guy, which is what they're telling me, it's a nationally broadcasted game, you got to be objective. But if I'm turning on Yes Network, I think Michael Kay and the broadcast and David Cohn, they have the right to be slightly biased. I'm literally clicking your network to watch this game.
And
I'm
not pretty objective too. You don't hear Michael Kay like, he hit a home run. Like, you'll hear like see ya, home run, Marcell
Yeah.
Ozuna. I'd be like, damn it, Michael, why you have to be so nice? Like,
I know.
or like John Sterling, it is far, it is gone. It's a home run for Rafael Devers. I'm like, what? I
I
just
know.
turned on the radio and I was
Mhm.
getting all excited. No,
Yeah.
but like those are people that keep it real, And David Cohn, it is kind of funny when David Cohn is covering a Yankee game on ESPN for Sunday Night Baseball, because it's like he actually does a really nice job of staying in between. But yeah, there are times, because you'll hear the bias. I don't know why Eduardo Perez doesn't like the Yankees, but you'll hear the bias of Eduardo Perez. You'll hear Carl Ravitch like saying whatever he's saying, and then David Cohn will like nonchalantly challenge what Perez just said, and obviously he'll be right in every single way. And then Perez will just come back and be like, "Yeah, well, I kind of see it differently." It's like,
Yeah.
well, you're wrong. So it's not really an opinion. It's just David Cohn knows his shit. So yeah. Long story short, though, it's a tough job. It always is going to be going on, a broadcast, going live. We've gone live on here before, but going live on TV, and I think a good example, if you ever want to know kind of what they go through in a sense, watch Winning Time, the Lakers HBO series. It's Chick Hearn and Pat Riley. Okay. Obviously, it's not them. It's them being portrayed in this biopic, series, docu series or whatever. And it shows a decent job, because Chick Hearn will be like, all right, when you talk, like, stop talking. Like, he'll put his fist up, and that's when Pat Riley needs to shut up. And it's like, that's how you have to have it, so it blends. And, people hated on Michael Kay last year. They didn't like his call when Aaron Judge hit 62. Hate to break it to you, that call was great. It made a lot of sense. Yeah, there was a lot of blowback. They said he was talking too much. Tony Romo had the same blowback in the Super Bowl. He's talking too much. Let the moment breathe. I disagree. I think at some point you have to add your flavor, then let it breathe. To just let it breathe, like what? So these guys are paid to commentate the game and do play-by-play, but you want them in the moment to just not talk. You have to say something. Like,
Well, when Kirk Gibson hit that homer at Dodger Stadium, okay?
Mm-hmm.
If you really think about what's the thing you remember the most, you remember Vin Scully saying, "I don't believe what I just saw."
Yeah. And
that's the number one. Yes. Those are the two things you think about. Okay. So I totally get, I think Vin Scully is actually the one who said, yeah, you really need to let situations breathe, but it's much easier said than done, because you have to remember, Michael Kay is still a fan of the Yankees. He's a professional, but he loves the Yankees. The Yankees are part of the reason why he's living this life that he's living. He's covering the Yankees. They gave him that opportunity. And of course, he earned it, right? So you can't sit up here and act like it wouldn't be difficult to lay off when you see Aaron Judge. What were we doing when we saw him hit that bomb? I mean, I was like jumping up and down. So
yeah, I mean,
it's tough.
Exactly. And people are like, well, you just have to be professional. I was like, would you be professional? All right, shoo. Like, it's like, but it's always, I mean, I guess it's just the sign of the times, right? People are always going to complain. People complained every single era of every single, every decade, whatever. It's now just broadcasted. So now everybody has social media. Everybody has access to social media, split second access to social media. So we all are getting information right then and there, and our brains are processing it in real time. And some people will let things marinate before they actually speak. And I can tell you, there are a lot of people that will go on Twitter like, I'm so freaking pissed. And then by the time they finish their tweet, they're like, I don't think I was actually that pissed, but now I feel like I've gone all in, so I'm just going to hit send. And then they end up getting blowback or whatever. No, I mean, to that point, I thought Michael Kay's call was great. The home run king, case closed, whatever. I liked his call. He also had that pause as well. And people are like, yeah, you talked way too much. And then, I just thought like the Super Bowl, I thought it was called well. People are always going to complain though. End of the day, there have been some great calls. there's been nobody that got screwed over more than when the Rams beat the Bengals. And I love Al Michaels to death. I freaking love Al Michaels. Okay. Do you believe in miracles? He called the freaking Stafford throw to Cooper Kupp to basically beat Tom Brady in the playoffs. He's had some great calls. I mean, beyond fantastic calls. He didn't even realize the Super Bowl was over when they threw Joe Burrow to the ground. And it saddens me because I was so hyped. Like, I was like, oh my God, it's going to be on NBC this year because there's always a rotation. I was like, nothing against, Buck or anybody like that. But I was like, I want Al Michaels calling that game. And, the final call, he's like, the Rams win the Super Bowl and all that, whatever. And that was fine. But in the moment, it's what you do in the moment, right? Like you just said with Vin Scully. And I'll never forget, it's like, and Donald wrestles down Burrow. P. Ryan might have had a shot at it, and it's incomplete. It's like, that's the game. They just won the Super Bowl. Why are you play-by-playing an incomplete pass on fourth down? Like they have to go out there and there's still time left in the game.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. You literally just said the exact opposite thing that people said about Aaron Judge's homer. You got one person who's just like, how are you not freaking out? We just won the Super Bowl. Know the situation. And then a dude hits 62. It's the biggest home run, biggest play of the whole year by far. And everyone's watching. And if he went out there and was just like, oh, okay. And then he stuck to how it affected the score of the game and then just let the whole situation breathe. Yeah. Everyone at home would have been like, what the hell is Michael Kay doing? Like, why aren't you jumping up and down? Like, this is the biggest situation the whole year. Like, everyone was questioning the balls. Are they juiced, right, for the Yankees? Like, all this different stuff. And there's all these, like, different, right? Manfred's under scrutiny. No one knows if baseball is going to grow. Is it going to shrink? Is it dead? Is it not? And then we have this home run chase underway. You break the home run record at 62, and you think Michael Kay is going to be like, it is gone, and then just listen to the crowd? Are you crazy? It's not going to happen. I get what people are saying by letting the situation breathe. You're not just going to talk his whole way around, but there's got to be a happy middle ground, and finding the middle ground is difficult because you have to remember this job is podcasting. I know it feels somewhat similar because we're on camera and we're on, right? Like, people can listen to us. Eventually we'll be on all the podcast networks, and it feels the same. It is not. Being a play-by-play, people are not choosing to listen to you necessarily. You've been trusted to be listened to by people who just want to watch the Yankees. Okay?
You are the subtitles for the show. If the subtitles are off, then essentially, everything's off. So yes. I agree with you.
Because I love listening to Michael Kay. Objectively, I don't give a shit at all what anyone else thinks about it. Not at all. Yeah. But I will say this. You don't turn on the Yankees and then lean over and go, yeah, I want to listen to Cone. Mute Michael Kay. Mute Cone. Listen to Michael Kay. It does not work that way.
Maybe they'll have AI technology where it does that someday, but
yeah, eventually I'll be able to have like Snoop Dogg talking about the Yankees with AI. You never know. By like iPhone 19, they'll be able to let me do it.
Yeah, that's not good, by the way. Anti-AI over here. But I know. But yeah, no, I mean, I always think about it. There are calls that stand out to me. And I mean, I can't remember everything, but we all remember Castillo dropped the ball, right? Because Michael Kay made that more memorable than it even was going to be. Yes, it was a Subway Series and all that, but like A-Rod slams his bat down and Castillo is under the ball, and obviously ball pops out, and Michael Kay's like, Castillo dropped the ball. He dropped the ball.
That was the best part. That was literally the best thing that happened.
Like, and then, history with the exclamation point, 3,000, home run, Derek Jeter, his 3,000th hit. I mean, perfect call. Exactly. So you're either good at that or you're not. And I think end of the day, Michael Kay is great at that. I think there are some guys that are absolutely fantastic at it. Vin Scully's a legend, all of that. But yeah, like, to kind of, make a long story short, even though it's not short, we've gone over hour 15. These guys do matter. They have a job, and I think we're just lucky. I think we're spoiled. So when you watch not giving Smoltz, not letting him off the hook necessarily for being biased, but I think when you watch other broadcasts, I think the Yankees broadcast is the best in the game, because I think their color guys are great. I think they're willing to teach the outside fan, the casual fan. They're willing to teach them. You have guys like David Cohn that know how to explain things without getting too crazy and overzealous. And then you have, a guy in Michael Kay who anybody can root for and anyone can, enjoy. Hell, if you're an A's fan and the A's hit a home run, he's going to give you just as much excitement as he is for the Yankees. Not quite.
Yeah, and
but,
Yes is good in general. I mean, like Jack Curry,
yeah.
they just do a good job. I get it. Technically, if you ask people, like if you ask our comment section, their own personal opinions, like they all think Romo sucks. Like there's a lot of people who think Romo stinks, right? They think Joe Buck is terrible, Michael Kay is terrible.
I've never heard anyone say Jim Nance is terrible, because if you said that, then I would just call you out.
Right. But like Joe Buck is a very popular person to say you hate because we hear him so much. I mean, we hear him a lot, especially those guys who are kind of like a part of every broadcast and they're multidimensional.
I actually think baseball misses him. I think he was great in the postseason. I think it's more memorable when he's calling it. It
feels more important, I would say. I think that's objectively how someone could describe it. It kind of reminded me of the NBA, where we no longer have the big NBA Finals logo the way we did when Jordan played or Kobe or LeBron. Now it's like you can't even tell it's an NBA Finals game. The voices are different, right? Outside of Mike Breen. So yeah, the broadcast matters more than the broadcast matters a lot more than what people are going to give it credit for. Like outside of all the complaining people do on social media, some of it makes sense and is accurate. And then other times it's not your cup of tea and it's not really worth hearing. So, but we just want to hear objectivity. That's our whole point.
Oh, absolutely. So that, we'll wrap it up with that. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. If you're still with us at this point, you deserve an award. But be sure to like, subscribe, and comment if you haven't already. Be sure to follow us on all social media. And we'll be back tomorrow. Earlier game, probably still going to go with a later release on the episode. But earlier game tomorrow, Nestor Cortez takes the mound. And I like the Yankees' chances. I think the Yankees are going to win the series. And I didn't expect that. I did not think they were going to win this game. 135 start, Max Fried taking on Nestor Cortez at the stadium. Should be a fun one. And then I think you got the Subway Series, at least a little bit of a preview of that. So, yeah, that's all we got. So appreciate you guys hanging out with us, and we'll see you guys soon.
And like this video.